Create Art Podcast. Commentary. Legacy. Hello, friends. This is Timothy Chemo Bryan, your head instigator for Create Art Podcast, where I use my over 30 years of experience in the arts and education world to help you tame your inner critic and create more than you consume. So this year, I'm doing a thing called Kickstart Creativity, and every week, except for April and November, which are National Poetry Writing Month and National Novel Writing Month, respectively, I'll be doing one of these cards, and there's 50 prompted cards to spark your inspiration. It's by Bonnie Smith Whitehouse, and you have 3 different types of cards. You have your green cards, which are your perspective cards. Red cards are action cards, and blue cards are intention cards. And you can mix and match them if you want. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm taking 1 card a week and, kind of contemplating what that card's theme is. And then, going ahead and doing the episode and letting you know what I think about it. So today's card is Legacy, as I said earlier in the show. And on the front of the card, let's see here, it says, loss awaits us all, and our creative efforts can be the legacy we leave. So it might sound a little bit morbid for some people, talking about after we go, but guess what? It happens. We all go at some point. And what are you going to leave behind is today's question, or, today's thought. A little bit further on, death is an inevitable part of human experiences, but the work we put forth during our time on Earth can survive as our legacy after life ends. Frida Kahlo claimed she painted lush, vibrant flowers because her brushstrokes kept them alive. In Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton, a legacy is defined as planting seeds in a garden you'll never get to see. And, oh my gosh, that sounds so morbid. That sounds so final, maybe nihilistic. But we got to all face the reality. At some point, we are not going to be here. And for some of us, that's a very scary thing. For others, we're planning for it. And I'm one of those types that I plan for this kind of stuff. So every week you hear me say, I've got 30 plus years of experience in the arts and education world. Well, let me tell you a little story here. I had this is when I was in grad school at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia, not too far from where I live right now in Fredericksburg. But I had a student there, and he's going to remain nameless. A good guy. Nothing crazy I'm going to tell you about him, because he'll tell you all the crazy things about him. But anyhow, his big thing was to be remembered after he died, and he told me, hey Tim, I want to have people write textbooks about me in school. I want, and he was an actor, so yeah, it was a little bit dramatic. But, he wanted to be remembered after he died. And, to this day, he doesn't have any of his own kids. He has a couple of stepkids. But I get it. We all want to live forever. It reminds me of the Queen song, Who Wants to Live Forever, for the soundtrack to Highlander. Great movie, great band. Check it out. Anyhow, I get what he's trying to say. He wants to be remembered forever. He wants what he does to matter, maybe even more than he matters, or that what he thinks matters. And at first I was like, oh well, that's really a lot of braggadocio. That's really how dare you? But as I enter my 50th year on the earth, and when I hit my 40s and even I would say 30s, I get it. At some point we're going to kick the bucket, and it's not a pleasant thought, but it's going to happen. So we should, plan for that. We should, think about what people are going to say about us after we die, what people are going to think about our work after we die. And, you should have you should have a part of that conversation. Even though you can't speak, you should be able to have a seat at that table. So we need to start thinking about that. What's this stuff going to look like? You want to have a plan for it in case, heaven forbid, something really quick happens, like a car accident or you're flying and the plane goes down. What happens the very next day? Are people going to know how to, preserve your work, how to present your work, what you meant by your work? It might be a good idea to, have a diary handy and to let somebody else know, hey, I want this done with my work. I want, whatever proceeds that, can be sold from it right away to go to this charity or that charity or to my estate. Make a plan for it. And if you haven't done that, well, today is a fantastic day to do that. It's a great day to start it, and it's going to take, some time to do it. So don't think you have to do it all today, but get started on that path today. Now, if you've listened to any of the episodes earlier, you know what's coming next, and that's going to be the definition of legacy. And this comes from our good friends at Merriam-Webster, and yes, the links will be in the show notes. The links will be in the show notes for Kickstart Creativity. I forgot to mention that earlier. But if you want to get involved in this, if you think that this can be helpful to you, by all means, I highly recommend it. But let's talk about legacy definitions. And Merriam-Webster defines it as something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or predecessor or from the past. And I like it. It had some other definitions in there, but that's what really spoke to my soul as it still lives here today talking to you. But think about it, though. Let's say I die tomorrow and I still put out this episode today. You're going to be able to listen to this episode a year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now. If we still have the technology to, transfer it. Think about all the things that you look at in an art museum. Those were done, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 300 years ago. Go to the Louvre in France. You'll see stuff that is, maybe even 1,000 years old. And to still be looking at it today, that artist must be, just overjoyed in their grave. Now, here comes the problem. So if you don't have a artistic statement, if you don't have something written down, people aren't going to know, where the inspiration came from, what your education was, what your experiences were. So they'll make it up for themselves. They'll tell that story themselves. And I may be a little bit of a control freak, but I want them, I want the future generations to know, hey, this is what he was thinking. This is what the inspiration was. This is what drove him. Because when we look at stuff through the lens of history, it can get cloudy. It can get really, really cloudy. And I want to have as clear a picture as I can. Are they going to get everything right? No, not at all. But I would like, when people are listening to this in 100 years from now, I'd like them to know, hey, this is why Tim was doing what he was doing. And that might sound selfish. And when I was talking with my actor friend, and he was telling me that, he wanted to have textbooks written about him, I think that was my initial reaction. Well, that's kind of selfish of you, that's, how dare you think that way? And the older I get, and well, I do want to tell you a little bit of a sad story, but it has a happy ending to it. So, I cut off ties with my dad, and he has all of the pictures of when I was a kid, when all my brothers and sisters were kids, and he has them stowed away someplace. And before I cut off ties with him, he wasn't willing to send them to me so that way I could digitize them and give them to all my brothers and sisters. So basically, I have a couple of digital pictures that were scanned in of me as a baby, my birth certificate, and I do have my birth certificate, but that's all I've got of it. And literally a handful, literally less than 10. I think I have maybe 5. And, there's no documentation of it. I can't, I'm not going to go up to his house and go, listen, let me get those pictures. I've got a digital, I've got a portable scanner here. That's not going to happen. So my kids are not going to be able to see those pictures. So at some point he's going to pass away. And unless he leaves it to me in his will, I'm never going to see those pictures again. My kids are never going to see those pictures again. So what I have done is, I've taken, I don't know how many thousands of pictures of my kids. And it's easier these days, because back in the day, you could, do Polaroids and, get the instant picture there. But how long is that going to last unless you really, really super duper protect it? Or let's say there's a fire or something like that. So what I've done is, I've got all of my pictures of my kids and, all the times that we've had in the past, at the time of this recording in the past 9 years, I've got them saved in the cloud, on an external hard drive, on a computer. I'm a little bit wary about that. And then when I do pass, that's going to pass on to them. Also, because pictures are fantastic, but also I'm doing a weekly diary entry, and for most weeks I'm there. I do it. I'd say about 98% of the time. I sit down on a Friday morning, and I'll write about a page and a half of what's going on in their lives, what's going on in my life a little bit, what's going on in the world. It was really big during the pandemic, but I was doing it even before the pandemic. And right now I've got about 3 journals filled up, and they're only, at the time of this recording, they're only 9. So you can only imagine how many journals I'm going to have filled up by the time they hit 18. My plan is to digitize those, to actually scan them, or to type them up. So that way there's a digital copy of it, but then there's the actual physical copy of it. And I'm going to continue on with the weekly diary entry, talking about them, what's going on in the world, what's going on with me. And it'll eventually, the hand ones will be left in my will as a preservation for something or other. But that way other people can, if they're interested in what I was thinking of, they'll have everything that they need right there to research that and to know exactly what I was thinking about. Also, my daughters will have all my audio recordings, so they'll be able to hear my voice at any time. My mom passed in 2002. I'll never be able to hear her voice. And, I would have loved to, had her voice at certain times in my life. I mean, yes, I remember what her voice sounds like, but in 2023 versus 2002, that's over 20 years that she's been gone. That voice kind of fades a little bit in the background. So this is something for your immediate family that you can do. This is something for the generations that come after you. A favorite show of mine is Antiques Roadshow, and seeing all these antiques make it through the years and years and years, and wondering, what they were thinking of when they picked up that piece of art or whatever it was. There's a lot of times that they have diaries in there, and that's when I'm like, ooh, let's find out what, was going on at that time. Their impressions of what was happening at that time. So if you're planning out your legacy now, like I said, as soon as you hear this, if it's 10 years from now, 100 years from now, or today, start planning that legacy today. As soon as you hear this, I give you permission for it. If you need permission, boom, you got it. Permission. It's not morbid. You're just, initially you may think it's morbid, but it really is helping the future generations out to understand your work, because you don't want to be misunderstood. And that's kind of a problem that we have in our society right now, is that we don't have a lot of those firsthand sources. We have some, a good deal of it, but not a lot of people are writing diaries. A lot of people are, doing blogs or podcasts or something like that. But really having a plan to, be able to share your thoughts and your feelings. And this is almost a thing for, hey, this is why everyone should have a podcast or a blog or something like that. But, make that part of your plan. What's the stuff going to look like the day after you're dead? 10 years after you're dead, 100 years after you're dead? What do you want people to know about you? And then tell them. Communicate with the future. It's kind of a little bit of a woo-woo idea, but give it a shot. Think about it. And that can spark inspiration for you to go and do something about it. You might want to go ahead and catalog everything that you've created up to this date and revisit it, and that might inspire a creation for you. So, when people say, I'm blocked, I've got writer's block, I've got artist's block, I say, go back, look at your stuff, talk about your stuff, comment on it. Even the paintings that looks like a fourth grader on crack did them, or a 4-year-old on crack did them. Comment on that. What were you feeling at the time? What does it, let's say that was 10 years ago. What does it feel like today? And you can relate that to where you're at today in your artistic practice. Give it a shot. I don't know. I think it's going to work for you really well, though. All right, so we're going to go do our challenges at this point. And first challenge is, and this comes with the cards too. I mean, this is, an added bonus. So go get the cards. Tell Bonnie that Tim sent you. She's not going to know who I am, but tell her I sent you anyways. Okay, so the first challenge is, many artists, poets, and songwriters have hoped their art could make their love and their lovers immortal. Is there anyone you'd hope to make immortal through your creative work? And, my wife and kids for sure. A lot of the people that I have, befriended in my life, in my lifetime, I want people to know that these were people that were important to me. No matter if they never do a creative, piece of art in their life or not, from this point on, I want, people to know this is who inspired Tim. My grad school, head of grad school, Noreen Barnes. I want people to know about her after I pass, because she was a huge influence on me, and she challenged me, and she was a wonderful person. So I want those around me to live forever in my work. And of course, my wife, who is my lover, I want to make her immortal because she's a wonderful person. She decided to marry me. So she deserves, some sainthood, I guess. But I definitely, I want people to know that, I was inspired by everybody around me. So, and I want, those special people that were around me, to live on as, for me, I'm like, I'm going to die at some point. What do I care about the future? Well, I do care because I see, how people can twist, history, to suit their own narrative. So why not make it clear from the get-go? This is how I got from point A to B to C, instead of somebody saying, well, if you look at it in this lens, and because I heard that so many times in college and grad school, and it just, what's the primary sources that you're using for this? Well, no, this is what I see in it. Okay, so it's your opinion. So let's get to some primary sources and find out what the artist actually says. The next challenge is, what do you dream of handing down to those who will come after you? And how can you make it so? Well, I want my kids to know, what my voice sounded like, because I had a spinal surgery. I had a part of my neck fused. And so my voice, the actual tone and timbre and everything in my voice has actually changed. There's videos of me before and after, and there's recordings of me before and after, and I can hear my voice change. So, in the future, I want people to know, hey, I had a L4 through 7 or C4 through 7 fusion. And to do that, they've got to move your vocal cords around, and it can, I don't want to say it damaged them, but it altered them. And so my voice has changed. So I want my kids to be able to know, why did that voice change happen? 3 years of smoking, that has definitely done a number on my lungs and my vocal cords. I actually talk like this. No, I'm kidding. That has definitely done damage to it, and that's my own fault. But I want people to, years down the road, be able to hear it. I myself, I love Leonard Cohen, Joe Frank, and there's others that I want to hear their voice. I remember the first time I heard T.S. Eliot's voice doing, him actually, a recording of him and doing The Hollow Men, which is, my favorite poem in the entire world. And he read it. If I would have heard him read it before I read it, I wouldn't have liked the poem as much. There's a certain way that I hear it in my head. There's a certain way that I read it, which is not like the way he reads it. And I don't know why he read it the way he did in the recording that I heard. So, for me, being able to read the work, make my own mind up about it, and then hear it. Yeah, I heard it and I was like, oh, okay. I can kind of see why he read it the way he read it. But for me, I needed to read it first, hear it in my own head first, and then I was able to listen to him do it. And it opened, some new things for me just in that one poem. So think about that for a future fan of yours, a future audience member of yours. How are they going to experience your work? All right, now we're going to pop up the last challenge. Look around. Can you identify artifacts that were made by the hands of a person whose life has ended? And do you sense the person lives on through the creation? I have a soapstone sculpture of the Thinking Man by Rodin from Mombasa, Kenya, from my time in there. So I am pretty sure, I don't know for a fact, that the artisan that made that is gone, is passed on. But I can look at that piece of work. And when I got that back, and that was back in 1992, 93, I didn't know who Rodin was. I had seen things about, the Thinking Man that he had done, and but I didn't know who the artist was or anything like that. So I brought that home. I bought it in Kenya while I was in the Air Force, brought that home, and I've had it with me ever since. And it opened up Rodin to me. And when I went to Paris, I went to the Rodin Museum. I had to, and I found a wonderful thing called a wonderful piece of his called The Gates of Hell, which I'm just like, oh my God, this is immense. This is beautiful, and it really led me down that path. So I got to Rodin via Mombasa, Kenya, from an artisan that was basically copying the work, but in their own style. So that's the power that this has, and I think it's fantastic. And yeah, Rodin was late 1800s, early 1900s kind of thing, and so it was. We're recording this here today in 2023. That's over 100 years old, and the effect that has on me is immense. Rothko paintings, he's been gone for a while now, but I can still look at a Rothko and go, oh my God. And, when I initially approached Rothko, not the man himself, but when I saw his works, I was like, okay, I can do that, which is the approach a lot of people, or the view a lot of people take. But then when you read about him, when you find out more about him, then you understand. And there's a Rothko that's down in a art museum in Richmond, Virginia, that when I see it, I tear up. I'm just, because I've read about his life and his legacy, and it just makes me tear up. So, again, if you want to make a big man cry like me, write your story. Make it happen. Think about the future generations that are going to see your work, and then talk to them. Okay, just a few points I want you to consider with legacy. And the first point is unveiling the past. And I've talked about this a few times during this podcast. You can really find out a lot about an artist when you read about their legacy. And it's even better when it's in their own words, because then it's not somebody's opinion of what they were trying to do. It is actually them telling you what they were trying to do. It's a catalyst for authenticity. Again, going back to those original sources. If we can get the diary of the artists themselves, that's the best way to do it. And then it's going to make you think about your work. How are people going to view it in the future after I'm gone? How can this work speak to future generations? And that's one of the things that I want you to think about when you're creating your work. What's this going to look like in 100 years? Next, we have lessons from the masters. So if they're, writing it down and, telling us how they did their stuff, wow, okay, so then we can learn from that and improve upon that, or take it down a completely different road. If we know where the road goes, maybe we branch off and try a different road or try to blaze our own trail, but we need to know where this road is going to go. Another thought is bridging generations. A lot of my heroes have passed on, and in a weird way, I consider them not my contemporaries, but my friends, my compadres. Who wouldn't want to, sit down with some of these folks and have a cup of coffee? And they speak to me today, just like I want to speak to generations down the road. And I want them to know, what, I was seeing and representing and why I did the way I did the things that I did. And if they enjoy it, fantastic. If they don't, move on. Or maybe they go, well, what else was he interested in? And they follow that path. So you can really bridge generations doing it that way. The next thing that I want you to think about is how legacy can inspire transformation. When I read how other people have done their work, their stories, their inspirations, then that can change me. And when we look at a piece of art, when we experience art, there's a transformation that happens. We are getting the viewpoint of somebody else on their view of what's going on in their life or in their dreams or what is going on in their universe. And that can transform how we view our universe and our lives and what's going on in our brains. So, use that legacy to inspire change for the better. We're still dealing with the effects of, the war between the states of the Civil War. We can look back at that time and go, man, we don't want to do that kind of stuff. With certain authors, Charles Bukowski, love Charles Bukowski, wouldn't want to meet him in person because he's a real jerk. But, for me, I can appreciate his work. I think it's funny. I don't take it, I take it all with a grain of salt. But then I also, look at my daughters and go, man, I want to show a better example for them so they don't pick people like that to be in their lives. But the guy's hilarious. To me, he's hilarious. And kind of the last point I want to impart upon you is the impact on audience connection. If we're thinking about our legacy and we're thinking about, hey, this is what people are going to think about in the future. If that's in the back of our heads, it doesn't have to be at the forefront, but if it's in the back of our heads, then we'll be able to connect with that audience. Okay, you're dead. You can't really connect unless you believe in spirits and ghosts and all that kind of good stuff. And then maybe you can connect with somebody. But let's just take it from you die, and that's it. Okay. But you're going to have that audience connection even after you die. Your words are going to, again, play towards that, authenticity that we talked about earlier. But that's going to be that connection with that audience member, and that connection, they can, years down the road, they go, yeah, no, I really understand what that guy was going through. And that really helped me to, not feel so alone. There you go, right there. That's your audience connection. And you may have saved that person's life from a piece of work that you did. So think about that. If for no other reason, these darn kids need some good entertainment. So make sure that you're providing them with the best that you can do. So that's all I have for today's episode. So I definitely want to thank you for taking a listen and, thinking about contemplating your legacy. A life that isn't contemplated. If you're not contemplating your life, then what's it worth to you? Just a few things I want to remind you of. I do have a newsletter. So if you go to the website, createartpodcast.com/podcast episodes, you'll, you open up the episode, you'll see I have a newsletter called Create Art Podcast Newsletter. But what I do is every month I go ahead and, talk about a topic in there and give you my thoughts and all that good stuff. So you can, if you want to subscribe to that, it's right there in the show notes. To reach out to this podcast, you can email me directly, timothy@createartpodcast.com. I definitely want to hear about your journey, what you're working on and all that good stuff. And if you want to be on the show and discuss a topic, that's the best way to go ahead and do it. I do have a YouTube channel that you can, if YouTube is your thing, by all means, go ahead and knock that out. Again, the connections, the links are in the show notes. Instagram, Twitter account, at Create Art Podcast, for the Instagram, and also Threads for while it's still up and going. Twitter's at Create Art Pod. And now, a thing I'd like to ask of you is if you found any value in this podcast, go ahead and share it with a friend. And that is the best way to discover new podcasts. I do want this to be a 5-star podcast in your eyes. I'd like to know what you'd like to see in this podcast. If it's not a 5-star podcast, tell me why you don't think it's a 5-star podcast. Maybe I need to adjust, the music. Maybe I need to adjust my speaking voice. Maybe I need to stand on my head and do this. Whatever. I want this to be a good resource for you in your artistic practice. Now, something new that I'm tossing in, and I'm starting with this episode, is, if you're a podcaster or want to be a guest on a podcast, or if you want to learn more about, that process and all that, there's a group I belong to called Pod Pros, and they do quarterly virtual conferences or events. And there'll be one happening on July the 20th of 2023. So if you're listening to this and that's already passed, that's fine. They do it every quarter. It's going to help you, become a better podcaster or become a better guest for a podcast. And that'll be happening then. It's dirt cheap. It's like under $25. You can go to podtalks.fm to find out more. Let them know that I sent you. And then the very last thing is I do run another podcast called Find a Podcast About. I know these titles are so imaginative. You can go there, find a podcast about.xyz, and I'll teach you how to outsmart the algorithm and find your next binge-worthy podcast. I review podcasts that I really enjoy listening to, and I tell you why, and I break it down into 3 different parts. So take a look at that and let me know what you think over there. So as I like to end every show, tame that inner critic, create more than you consume, and go make some art for somebody you love, yourself. I'll talk with you next time.